and welcome back to another episode of the Survival Prep Roundtable. I'm Jason, and with me this week, we've got Adam Bradbury. He's the founder, editor, creator of Roughing It, the Survivor's Journal. How you doing, Adam?
Doing good. What's up, everybody?
And also, we've got Mr. Mike Caldwell, the creator, co-host of the Evolution of the Apocalypse podcast. Mike, welcome back.
Hey, man. What's going on, guys? Glad to be on again. Ready to talk some bug in.
Bugging in today. Yes. Why bug in and not bug out? I'm bugging out right now.
You're bugging out?
I'm bugging out. I'm gone. Nice. Don't forget to get a hold of us. Send us emails to feedback@survivalpreptv.com. Speaking of survivalpreptv.com, we do have a website that is currently under construction but will be up very soon. Head on over to survivalpreptv.com. You can also go to our Facebook page. Just search Survival Prep Roundtable, and you'll be able to find us there. We are on YouTube by searching Survival Prep Roundtable, and you can call us and leave your feedback, and you'll be put on air, your ideas, your survival tips, your questions, by calling us at 507-339-PREP. That's 507-339-PREP. Mike, can you remember that?
Yeah. Sure. I'll get it down eventually. I have a hard time remembering my own voicemail or my own phone number, so But yeah, we'll get
that's
it.
Why I put the prep in there.
Just
507-339-7737. Yes. All right, bugging in. What is bugging in?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Mike. You go first. I'm always first.
Nice. To me, bugging in is, you have no options. You cannot leave for whatever situation, rather it be weather, rather it be, mass chaos. You need to hold up wherever you are. That, to me, is bugging in. Now, there's a lot that goes into bugging in to me, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. But, yeah, the main thing is, to me, is about bugging in is just holding up, making that your standstill,
Yeah. No, pretty much what Mike said, but it's not necessarily having to bug in. It's bugging in if you can, depending on what the situation is. If it's if you got riots and stuff going on outside and it's not really a good idea to go outside, or you got zombies surrounding the house, then obviously you want to try to shack yourself up and stay inside, but if it depends on the area too, and there again, like Mike said, I'm sure we'll get more in depth on that. So
yeah.
What about you, Jason?
Agree.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to turn myself down because it looks like I'm actually really loud.
No, sound good to me.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, for me, bugging in is actually more preferable than bugging out.
Really?
To me, I would much rather bug in, hunker down, ride things out, if I could, rather than leaving the comfort of my own home.
I lost my train of thought there. You had something you were saying.
Yeah, so for me, bugging in is more preferable than bugging out, because bugging out, you're getting rid of, you've collected over the course of your life, not just the means of survival, such as food, water, ammunition, whatever, but you've also collected creature comforts. You've collected a lot of things over the course of your life that will help you survive in a situation. When you leave, when you bug out, when you get away from where you live, what happens is you can't take all of that with you. So I'm actually going to play this now. I was saving it for later, but I'm going to play it now. This is George Carlin. If you guys ever heard his joke on stuff, this is kind of what it is.
I know it.
That's all your house is. Your house is just a place for your stuff. If you didn't have so much goddamn stuff, you wouldn't need a house. You could just walk around all the time. That's all your house is? It's a pile of stuff with a cover on it. Now, sometimes you go on vacation, you gotta bring some of your stuff with you. You can't bring all your stuff. Just the stuff you really like. The stuff that fits you well that month. Let's say you're gonna go to Honolulu. You're gonna go all the way to Honolulu. You gotta take 2 big bags of stuff. Plus your carry-on stuff, plus the stuff in your pockets. You get all the way to Honolulu and you get in your hotel room and you start to put away your stuff. That's the first thing you do in a hotel room is put away your stuff. I'll put some stuff in here, put some stuff down there. Here's another place for some stuff here. I'll put some stuff over there. You put your stuff over there. I'm putting my stuff over here. Here's another place for some stuff. Hey, we got more places than we've got stuff. That's when your friend from Maui calls.
Yeah.
And says, hey, why don't you come over to Maui for the weekend? Spend a couple of nights over here. Oh, shit, no. Now what stuff do you bring? Right, you've got to bring an even smaller version of your stuff. Just enough stuff for a weekend on Maui. And you get over, and you're really spread out now. You've got shit all over the world. You've got stuff at home, stuff in storage, stuff in Honolulu, stuff in Maui, stuff in your pockets. Supply lines are getting longer and harder to maintain.
So, in my personal view, if you have all this stuff right here, why spread it out? Why leave it unless you absolutely have to? To me, the main reasons to leave is if it's no longer safe to stay, if you're out of resources, or if there are external factors involved. That pretty much means it's no longer safe to stay.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I've said it before, communication is going to be a big determining factor on what I do, as far as if I can reach the outside world. But I mean, having said that, yes, you are right. Like, your stuff is there and your comfort there. I've always thought about bugging out, but maybe bugging in is a good thing. You know, maybe it's not as bad as what everybody makes it out to be. And you know, it's something not many people talk about either. Everybody talks about their bug out bag and how they're going to run. You know.
Well, have you guys made any preparations for bugging in? You know, in one of my first videos, I actually showed some of the stuff that I have, you know, as far as food prep and stuff like that. Now, I'm not like one of those crazy preppers that preps, you know, I got a freaking basement full of crap. You know, I don't. I've got enough food and water and supplies and stuff to last my family, you know, about a good week to 2 weeks. You know, and if by chance that you know, it's, you know, it's going down any longer than that, then I'm getting out.
Yeah, to me, bugging in is like, it's not going to be long term, even if you do bug in, unless you're in a situation where you can make it long term. I mean, that's the hard thing with it is, you know, it's a gut feeling.
I think a good example to use is from the TV show Walking Dead, and think about the Green family staying bugged in at their farm compared to Rick and the crew that bugged out and had to live off the land up in a mountain.
Right. But if you look at there's a few things you want to take into consideration. Number one, how well fortified is your house?
And that's
is it going to be protected? Yeah. Number two is your location. If you're in the middle of a city, I would want to get the heck out regardless of what's going on. I'm going to try to get out, even though it might be hard. I'm going to try to get the heck out because I don't have the land or the resources as well to live off of. Now, I don't live in a city, so I'm sure there's people that, you know, urban survivalists that can live off that stuff, but I just, you know, I haven't practiced that, so I'm not very, you know, I'm not very up on that stuff.
I live in both. I live in both, so I have, you know, woods and urban. 10 minutes from a city, but I'm also 10 minutes or less from state forest. So
and see,
I mean,
you're that's the perfect situation right there. I'm the same way. I'm like I have a state forest about 5 minutes away, but I'm right on the edge of the suburbs and the country. You know, so I'm still about 30 to 45 minutes from the city, which is nice because when stuff goes down, where's it going to all start? Most of the riots, most of the looting, most of all the crime and stuff that's going to happen in that situation is going to be in a highly populated area like the city.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, I'm a half hour from Philadelphia, which is a huge city. An hour or so away from New York, which is an even bigger city. But I do have cities 10 minutes away from me. So I mean,
you've got a head start on people then.
A little bit, I guess. But my house doesn't really make a good house to bug into. I live in a ranch house, with a lot of windows. So that's another thing that plays into bugging in. You got to know how to fortify that.
Well, and to me, bugging in is more than just knowing how to fortify. To me, you also have to know, you guys live in houses that may or may not have basements, may or may not have garages. I live in an apartment. Well, it's a duplex, but it's an apartment that I don't have the room to store a lot of supplies. Mm-hmm. I can store stuff for the means of getting supplies, such as a way of procuring water, way of keeping myself warm, way of heating, stuff like that. But as far as, and we'll get into this when we get into water and food supplies, I cannot store 1 gallon of water per person. There's 3 of us in our house. 2.5 if you, depending on how you count my 2-year-old son.
0.5.
0.5. It's probably closer to a 0.25.
Okay.
But anyway, the 3 of us, 1 gallon of water per day. You take 3 days, that's 9 gallons right there. Yep. Of water that I would have to store. I don't have the room for that, so that would mean that I would have to and eventually bug out much sooner than somebody that does have a basement, a garage, someplace to store the food and water that they need to survive longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a 2-car garage. I have a full basement with a storage area in back, so I do have the space for it. Do I have enough of that stuff? No. That's something
Are you going to get it
on
eventually?
Yeah, it's something I need to work on now that I'm thinking about maybe bugging in at first. Yeah. So, but I do have enough food to get me through. Like right now, normal day, we got enough food to last us a couple weeks at least. But I mean, maybe I should start thinking longer.
The average suburban and country person has anywhere between 1 and 2 weeks worth of food. Oh, the average city person has anywhere between 2 and 3 days.
Mm. Yeah, that's a big difference.
That's a huge difference, and most of that, if you think about it, is just what I talked about: where to store it.
Yeah, that is tough.
If you're living in a high-rise apartment, you don't have a basement, you don't have a pantry. All you have is cupboard space.
If you are going to bug in, and shit's going down, and you need to do something, first thing a lot of people should do is fill up their sinks and fill up their bathtubs with water.
Yep.
Yep.
You use that plumbing while it's there, because once it's gone, it's gone. You know what I mean?
It's gone.
You got the water out of the back of the toilet, which is clean, unless you use those little blue tablets. Obviously,
hot water tank if you can get to it.
Yep. Your hot water heater.
Yep. Hot water tank. What's the average? I think 50 and 70. 50 and 70 gallons. I think
40 and 50. 40 and 50 are average. A lot of the bigger houses have a 75 gallon.
We have a 75. We just had to replace it, and that thing was a beast getting downstairs. Mm-hmm. So it's a big one.
Now the people that are really going to be good are people like my parents that actually have a well.
I was going to say a well. Yeah.
To have water, to have plumbing, and a septic tank, all they have to do is hook up a generator, and they can literally, and they've done this before, we've done it where we simply run the generator for like 45 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. Fill up the hot water tanks, fill up the bathtubs, get the water that we need, maybe take a shower during that time too, and then turn it off.
And, you said a shower. That's another thing I heard somebody mention a while back. If you know stuff's going down, take that shower now, because you might not get another one for a little while. You know what I mean? And that plumbing's going to be huge, so take a shower. Get cleaned up, because you might not get another one for a couple weeks.
Mike, you were talking about, wanting to start your home prepping and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Here's what I do. Anytime the wife goes to the grocery store, I tell her, go ahead and grab 1 or 2 of those gallon jugs of water. They're like $1.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it
super cheap.
On the video.
So so if you start, and if your wife goes to the store once, twice a week, like a lot of people do, just have her pick up one or two of those, every time she goes, and by the time you know it, before you know it, man, you've got 15 or 20 gallons of water downstairs.
We know, yeah, and I'm kind of lucky because what happens is, right out back of my house, Adam, I think you Google mapped my house one time when we were talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stalking you. Yeah.
I got that main road that runs behind my house, but between that main road and the end of my property, I have a creek that runs through there. So I'm literally 30-second walk to a creek.
Right.
So
now, a creek is good, but remember, it's a fairly reliable source of water, but depending on the size doesn't mean it is reliable.
Yeah, you still got
it can
become
it can become over contaminated, because what happens with creeks is when people no longer have plumbing, they tend to throw it into creeks. They're human waste. And then number two is that people up the creek may try finding a way to hoard the water by diverting it.
They'll dam it.
They'll dam it. They'll dredge it out.
Moonshiners use creeks to pump water to places. I mean, it's there. You can do it. Yeah.
So, just keep that in mind, because I have one right down the road. I actually have a river that floods out my road right down the road from me that, it's a fairly good, reliable source of water. Doesn't mean it is the source of water ever. Back to the why, though.
Hold on. I also have a pond in my neighborhood too that could be used as if you have a pond in your neighborhood.
And
you
that's
could also
really
use that.
That's really good. One thing that not many people think about: pools are a great source of water.
Heck yeah.
And
your chlorine,
and the water's
purified.
actually exactly the water's actually clean. I mean, to a point.
If if you can't use the pool water, those filters, that sand in those filters are awesome for making water filtration.
Yes,
they are.
So, and on a side note, Mike, you say you got a creek behind your house. I mean, it would obviously take a little bit of engineering, but if it's fast enough flowing, if it's got a good flow to it, dude, you can make a generator.
Oh, I know. It's
Water
probably
powered
not
generator.
fast enough for that.
I've seen some low-powered generators, though, that people have made out of the props on boat motors.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, YouTube it. Some people have done that and used fairly small creeks to make, it's not something that'll run your house, but it's something that may put a light on in the middle of the night.
Here's something that's kind of a little bit off on a tangent. Okay, my grandpa, he actually runs a museum down in my hometown, down in southern Missouri, and they had one of the neatest things I had ever seen. This thing was probably back from the 20s or 30s, and it was a windmill that basically powered. It was designed strictly to power a old Zenith radio. Okay, so like back in the day before they had electricity, you would buy this radio and you would get this windmill that come with it to power it, right? And I was looking at it, and all that windmill is a old car generator, an alternator off a car. So you can actually use one of those. You've got to get it. You'd have to have the prop, to make it spin fast enough in the wind power. But you could use a generator off your car to charge batteries and then hook it to an inverter to power, like you said, a light or small stuff.
You ever seen the show The Colony that was back on Discovery Channel?
Yeah, that was an awesome show.
I don't know why they ever got rid of it, but that on that show they did that. They actually took the fan off a car. I believe it was a fan off a car. Used it as the instead of a propeller. Used that fan. Had a battery bank full of car batteries and was able to charge the battery bank, which then gave them power to run charge drills, charge saws, run equipment, and that's another great source. I mean, yeah, definitely. If you're going to bug in, these are things you need to think about.
Right. Yeah. We're going to get into the generators in a minute, but the other one that we'll talk about. Have you either of you guys heard of a wood gasifier?
Yep,
No.
They did that on that show too, Mike.
They did. Yeah. Season 1. And a wood gasifier is great.
Yeah.
As an experiment up at our cabin, me and some cousins that, are actually good with tools and stuff more so than myself, we were actually able to make one.
Nice.
And, and of course they're mechanics, so they knew how to run it into the carburetor and everything like that. But there is a way of, quite literally powering a generator almost infinitely by burning wood. Well, sort of burning wood. All right, so why bug in? Some of the reasons that I put is bugging in, hunkering down, in many cases, is safer than leaving.
You have a lower profile.
You're a lower profile. You're not exposing yourself to both weather and other people, starvation. It's safer than leaving. So for me, bugging in is going to be the first thing that I do in a disaster before I bug out.
Agreed. I definitely agree with that. Definitely those things. That's exactly why. But you need to get things ready before you bug in. You know what I mean? Or else you're gonna have a really tough time.
You really got to assess the situation, though, too. It really depends. Like, for me, I mean, my bug out location is only about 20 minutes away. And
or walking?
By car. But I've got I've got several routes mapped out to it. So for me, I'm close enough that unless it's just a really mild situation, I'm gonna run. I mean, I'm gonna take off. I've got my stuff set up in my house to where I can load it all up pretty quickly if I had to take it with me. If I've got 20, 30 minutes to load up, that's really all I need to get everything I need into my truck and out the door. So, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the fence as you guys. I'm going to bug out, really, I think, any way I can, because I know the location that I'm going to is a heck of a lot safer, even though I'm pretty far out than where I'm at now. Yeah,
I mean, like, my bug out location is probably about the same, about 20 minutes drive. I could walk there, it'd probably take me an hour, but or more. Maybe less. It's probably a 10-minute drive, so it'll probably take me about an hour or so to walk. But I'll hold up in my house as long as I can. But see, my house isn't really set up to bug in, and that's another thing I want to talk about a little later on about how to bug in, steps you need to take to bug in.
Yeah. So along with the why, I also put comfort. Comfort to me is a big why. When the defecation is hitting the rotating oscillator.
I love that.
You want as much comfort as you can, whether comfort comes, helps you by coming in a bottle, or, psychological comfort of being at home. Being at home, anybody that's ever went on vacation or stayed over at somebody's house or has little kids and seen how they act when you stay in a hotel, it's not as comforting as being in your own house.
And if you have kids, that's another thing. Your kids are going to feel way more comfortable at home versus some strange place.
Right. You have a sense of ownership, which is also comforting. You have a support system generally. Many people tend to live near family and friends. And that is something that is going to give you not only psychological and physical comfort, but it's a support system that you guys can lean on each other a little bit. And you tend to have more entertainment at home, even when there's no power, when there's nothing around, than when you're on the road.
Oh, you can find something to do. You know what I mean?
Now, in the kid aspect, though, I mean, you want to prep your kids for either way, bugging in or bugging out. Obviously, bugging in is a little bit easier. You kind of give them a flashlight. Little kids are happy. I mean, what kid doesn't love flashlights or glow sticks, right?
Yeah.
Bugging out is a little bit more difficult on a kid because, they're you got to keep them calm. You got to basically not let them know what's going on, but they can still sense it. Like my son, he has his bug out bag. He calls it his adventure bag.
Nice.
And so if we go out on a hike or whatever, we take that bag with him, and we explain to him that, we're going on an adventure because he loves that. So it kind of, you kind of got to gear it towards them and,
I like that rather than calling it a bug out or an emergency bag. That's your adventure bag.
Yeah, because when they go, they think they're going on an adventure and not an extreme situation.
Yep, exactly.
The other comfort that you kind of get is a little bit more physical. You know the terrain of your house and generally the best ways to protect it.
Mm-hmm.
So in your case, Mike, because you said your house is, not as fortified because of all the windows, but you do have a basement.
Yes. But we all know what
And a
happens in
basement
basements.
Cut down the stairs, right?
But a basement,
Everybody dies that goes into a basement.
but it is a little bit more fortified.
Yes. I only got to block off one entrance.
Unfortunately, that means that's also your only means of escape.
Yes, that's the problem.
But you do know the limitations of your own house
Yes.
and what you need to fortify. Also, it's so much nicer to sleep in your own bed
That's true.
than it is sleeping on the ground or
Would you really
somebody
be getting?
else's.
I mean, I don't think you're going to get a lot of sleep in this situation, but yes, the comfort of your own bed would definitely help you at least.
Yes.
I mean, it's better to sleep on a hard ground than in the middle of nowhere.
Well, heck yeah.
You know.
And then also you know the sights and sounds of your house. So if you hear something in the middle of the night, you know what's natural for your house and what needs to be investigated.
Yep.
It's true.
So it's also a lot less effort to bug in.
It is.
Maybe not prepping wise, it takes a lot of prepping, but exertion wise, you don't have to walk anywhere. You're not expelling fuel. You don't have to worry as much about food and water because you've already saved enough food and water to last you. It's a lot less effort. And the fourth one is hunkering down and staying where you're at is natural.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy, where people knew that it was unsafe to stay.
Yeah. And I wasn't too far from that.
People knew that their best bet of survival is actually to leave.
Yeah.
But your natural tendency is to stay where you're at and hunker down and try to ride out the storm. We all do that. I don't have hurricanes here in Michigan, but we certainly have blizzards.
Yeah.
We get power knocked out for days. You know, and what do you do when that happens? You hunker down. You don't go anywhere. You make sure that you have enough food and water to last you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, if it was like a rainstorm, like hurricane, we had Hurricane Irene, Hurricane Sandy, not Hurricane Katrina, but that was down south. But the problem we had was we have a sub pump in our basement, and if electric goes out, that sub pump goes, and then the basement starts flooding. Now I have a generator that I can run, but you need fuel for it. So
Right.
there's the issue there. How much fuel?
And the
fuel you
general
have.
rule of thumb is make sure you always have at least 1 week's worth of fuel for a generator.
And I do usually
And
keep
Mike,
that.
one thing, something to think about. If you got a sump pump, dude, they do make battery backups.
We have a
pumps.
battery backup, but for some reason I don't trust it.
Well, and that's where the generator comes in good because growing up, my parents, they had the same thing. We had the same thing growing up. And what we would do is we would take the generator and just like I said, we would run it for 45 minutes a day to get for the pump for the well. We would also hook it up to the sump pump and run it to make sure that it pumped out all the water before it filled up or got into the basement.
Yeah.
And that's where having the battery backup, because you notice some pumps, they don't run all the time.
No.
They tend to kick on
Mine
for
does.
about a minute or so and then turn off. And then it gets up to that level again, kicks on, turns off. So the battery backup that you have is good. And if you run the generator enough to keep that battery backup charged, you'll be gold.
And another cool thing to have is that I bought was a small gas-powered pump to pump the water out. And that can also be used in that creek behind my house, or large body water. You can pump water out with that pump, so it's a good thing to have, and it doesn't run off much fuel. So
Yep. All right, when to bug in. So like I said, it's natural, so you're going to bug in basically 2 different times, well, multiple different times for the second one, but you're bugging in at your house where you live right now, generally at the onset of disaster. Like I said, it's natural to hunker down and ride it out. It's also the safest spot initially while everybody's going on. I say that with quotes, though, because there is an unless.
yes,
It's safer to hunker down unless it's not.
yeah, and that's where your gut comes into play. You got to use your gut. If your gut's telling you it's time to go, it's probably time to go.
Yes.
You know?
And it was probably time to go a couple hours ago.
Probably, but you're still trying to hold on, you know?
Yeah. So that's
Agreed.
the thing. When it comes to bugging in, don't try to hold on. Know when it's time to go. Just make the decision and leave. Don't try holding on thinking that things will get better.
Yep.
If
Never
things
second
get
guess
better,
yourself.
come back.
Yep.
Yeah,
Never second
exactly.
guess yourself, man.
No, every time you second guess yourself, it'll come back to bite you in the ass. At least that's been my experiences.
Mine too.
So the second time, or the second part of bugging out is bugging out when you're on the road. You guys already mentioned having a bug out location. Bugging in, what are you doing when you get to your bug out location? You're bugging in.
Yeah,
Yep.
agreed.
So bugging out on the road, it's not a formula of first in, then out. It can be first out, then in, then out again, then in again, then out again. It's this going to be a constant cycle because eventually, even at your bug out location, you may run out of food, somebody may get hurt, you may have somebody that discovers you, and you have to leave it.
Yep.
Then what do? You find another place that is safe, it's safe location, and you bug in again until it's no longer safe.
Well, Mike, what was that saying on World War Z? Movement is
Life.
movement is life. Yep. Yep.
I love that quote.
Yeah, that's so good, man.
Because no matter what, yeah, I've always said, you know, you need to have more than one bug out location. I'm holding up air quotes there, and you need to have branches off of that. So if you hold out your 5 fingers, the way I look at it is, you have, you know, your first 2 fingers are bug out locations, and then the other 3 fingers are possibilities close to that you can use in case you have to leave again. And always have, you know, a contingency plan on where you're going to go next, and plan that out ahead of time, because the last thing you want to do is be out there on the road and try and come up with something.
Yep.
And that also means that when you're on the road and you do get to your location, don't empty your bug out bag and think that you're safe.
Nope.
Get to your location, use the gear out of your bag that you need, but the meaning of the bag is to get from point A to point B.
And always
So
have
make
it,
sure that it also gets you from point B to point C.
Yep, and always have it ready to go. If you got to leave something behind, make sure it's something you don't necessarily need immediately. You know.
Well, and there
All right.
again, your bag is supposed to be a 72-hour bag. If you, let's say, you know, mainly for getting, like you were saying, from point A to point B, you know, so you don't want to try not to use as much stuff out of there as you can. Save that. Use other, because you get to where you're going to go, you're going to have resources. That's the whole purpose of bugging in anywhere, is having those resources. You know, ways to get food, ways to get water, ways to have shelter, protection, whatever. So keep that stuff in your bag and try not to use it.
Yeah.
I also know people that actually have stashes buried in the ground between their home and their bug out location.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got
That
to.
way-
That's a
they
great
can
idea.
refill.
I mean, I wish I could do that. I'm always I'm always scared somebody's going to run across it.
I have a spot that I'm going to put some stuff, a small cache, between me and my bug out location. It's in the woods, so I don't think many people would be able to find it. But yeah, you do wonder, like, if somebody does come across it, they're going to come across some nice stuff, because I want to put ammunition in there. I want to put a gun, you know, a lot of that stuff. But if somebody does find it.
I wouldn't necessarily put that stuff in there. What I would put is what are going to end up being expendable in your bug out bag. So ammunition is fine because it's expendable. Your gun, unless you lose your gun, it's not expendable. It's always going to be there. So for me, I would put food. I would put toiletries. I would put ammunition.
Well,
I may have an extra knife or a couple other things in there, but basically have the stuff in there that is going to get used up on the way.
Well,
Oh,
that
yeah.
really depends, Mike. I mean, Mike, do you actually have a gun that you keep in your bag?
Yes.
Okay, because for somebody that doesn't keep it actually in their bag, like let's say you got one that you keep in your nightstand, you say, well, if something happens, I'm going to grab that in my bag. Well, that's 2 things you got to grab. What are you going to grab first? You're going to grab your bag.
Yeah.
So for somebody that doesn't keep it in there, that's probably a good idea to have that just in case. Or,
Well,
you know, or let's say that, you know, I've got a .22 pistol that I keep in my bag. Okay, and Mike, you got a 9mm that you're, or like I have a 9mm that I'm going to put in my cache. Well, if for some reason I run out of 22, it's always nice to know that cache is there. I can run back to it.
Yeah, what I want to put in my cache is a 22 rifle, not a pistol, because I have plenty of them. I do keep one in my nightstand. I do keep one in my bag. If I can grab the one out of my nightstand, if I got time, I'll do that. But I'm going to grab my bag immediately, which already has that gun in there. But having, like I said, a 22 rifle in that cache would be nice. Would be nice because it's less stuff that I have to carry.
Right.
Halfway there.
And you're going to shoot a longer range with a rifle than you are with a pistol.
And like you said, you don't always have to go there and get it immediately. You can leave it there if you have to, and go get it later, you know. But yeah, toiletries, replacement items for your bag, ways to start fire, maybe a way to purify water. Those things are going to be good to have in that cache as well.
Right. All right. So bugging in, what do you need? What to have when you bug in. And this isn't necessarily I'm going to give a list. I hate laundry lists.
Yeah.
Because every blog, everything on the internet has a laundry list. Some of them are staples. Some of them are, just preferences. And when it comes to a list of what to have, whether it's bug in or bug out, it's going to come down to personal preferences. Every time. But the 4 things that you're going to need on both a bug out and a bug in, food, water, shelter, and protection. That's why it's right there. Well, that goes under shelter for me.
Okay.
So that's why if you look at our symbol, and I'll actually bring that up for those of you watching the video. If you look at the symbol for the Survival Prep Roundtable, it's actually protection, shelter, and food and water. The three parts. I put food and water generally together because to me they go together just like fire goes with shelter. And the reason that I put that is because you can stay warm without a shelter if you have fire.
Yep.
That's just me. So under shelter goes a lot of different things, and we'll talk about that. So first I'm going to go with food. Start off with the 72 hours. Have at least 3 days of food. And that's where you want to start, in my opinion. And then slowly expand from there to a minimum of 6 months.
Yep.
Don't go out and try to buy 6 months worth of food or a year's worth of food and break yourself. Go out and buy, spend an extra buck at the store getting an extra can here and there, water. Spend a little bit of extra money each time so that over time you build yourself up to that. But right now, get to 3 days.
Yep.
Okay, no argument on that, I guess.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. Like for me, okay, and like I said, there's the video. I think it was episode 2 or 3 of Roughing It. I went through a lot of this stuff. You want to look for non-perishables mainly. Rice, macaroni noodles or any noodles. I prefer macaronis because they're small and you can put a bunch of them in there. Another thing that I've been doing is dehydrating my own vegetables. Okay, in that video, I show one of those juice containers, and I save all my 2-liter bottles of soda and juice containers and stuff because they're nice. They seal up well, and they hold a crap load of stuff. So I've got that big juice container about maybe a third of the way full. I've got like 5 pounds or 8 pounds, I think, or something like that, of dehydrated corn in that thing. That'll last a long time, and you can do a lot with it. You can leave it dry and powder it up and make bread or whatever, or you can rehydrate it and make stew or soup or what have you.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff, beans,
beans is great to have because it's protein, and you're not going to get protein from meat like we're used to.
And it doesn't spoil. And there's a lot of other things like one thing that I like to keep on hand all the time is honey. There's not a whole lot of nutritional value, but taste. You get a lot of honey is pure glucose. Glucose is energy. Yeah, but more than anything, you can add it to anything just for taste, and honey never spoils. Never.
Actually, there's a can. I guess you can call it a jar of honey that was found from Egypt from the Egyptian times, and it was still edible.
I did hear about that, yeah.
Honey is a natural antibiotic. Microbes cannot get into honey and make it bad.
Yeah.
So honey is great to have. And the other thing, like I said, with honey is that it is an antibiotic. So if you get a burn, if you get a cut, you can actually smear honey on there rather than using up the antibiotics in your kit.
And
Well, it's
it'll
like
make
they
it
say,
glue.
yeah, it's like they say too. You know, if you have a sore throat or like
Yep.
you have like a viral infection or something, honey and cinnamon mixed together and take a spoonful of that every day or two a day or something like that. It really does help. I've done it before.
I make a concoction of that works great for me. That's honey, minced garlic, which is also an antibiotic, and cayenne pepper.
Oh.
And when I start getting a cold or I start getting a sore throat, I start taking that about every hour for
That
about
sounds
2 or 3 days.
disgusting,
It tastes it's a taste that kind of it doesn't grow on you, but it gets
Just-
more tolerable over
Just
time.
give me a bottle of whiskey. I'll be fine.
But I take a spoonful of that about every hour, and man, it just knocks it right out because you have the honey that coats and is an antibiotic. You have the garlic that's an antibiotic, and then you also have the cayenne pepper that, if you have a sore throat, actually brings blood to the surface to help get rid of the infection.
Yeah. Well, that's
that-
good to know. It's good stuff.
That's an old school. I'll put that up on our website when we get it made. That's an old school antibiotic for strep throat, is what it used to be.
Nice.
But getting back on what I was saying about food, also, don't be afraid of pre-made kits. I know we got to talk to them about becoming a sponsor of this show. I know they're a sponsor of your show, Mike. Survival Plan Kits.
Yeah, they're actually a new sponsor, Roughing It too now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yep.
And their kits are great. Don't be, I am never going to say don't buy pre-made kits, because they have 72-hour kits on there that are great. They're compact. They come in like a 5-gallon bucket that you can just sit, and now you have your 3 days in case of a disaster, and you have time then to build up the rest.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're relatively inexpensive when you really look at it. What you're getting is going to last you a long time. So they are storable. They're stackable. Survival Plan Kits. They got a lot of cool stuff.
And then, of course, I'm also going to do a video of this as soon as I can get my mom involved, because she's the one that has all the canning equipment. Is you can actually can without having to learn how to can. There is such a thing as called dry canning.
Okay.
So all of these dry goods that we talked about, you can actually can them in the oven. Get the jars, get all the equipment. You put the we'll say flour or corn, but we'll say flour. Flour. The reason that flour tends to go bad is a couple different reasons. One is moisture and oxygen, and then the other is they have these little itty bitty bugs in them, and those little itty bitty bugs tend to hatch, and you end up with a bunch of bugs in your soup or in your bread. But if you take it and you dry can it in the oven, and then you take it out, you wipe it with a rag, you put the thing on, it seals it so it's airtight. The heat also kills off the bugs. And dry canning can make your dry goods last 20 years.
Yeah, and those little air packets that you can buy that keep things dry.
Oxygen absorbers?
Yeah, you can use those if you're going to make your own. If you're going to build, like Adam's talking about rice, stuff like that. If you're going to put large containers together, you want to put that stuff on there. And they do sell those caps now that you can buy to put on top of a 5-gallon bucket that airtight locks them so air can't get in.
Well, rice will actually absorb moisture too. So
That's
if
true,
you have some
yeah.
stuff, you can throw. Like if you ever notice, you go to a restaurant and you see rice in the little salt shakers. That's because the rice will absorb the moisture before the salt will. But talking about the oven thing, real quick, I just want to give a real quick explanation on how to dry, dehydrate your own corn and how I do it. I'll set the oven at like 175 degrees, real low, 175, maybe 200 degrees. I'll take a bag of frozen corn or frozen peas or whatever, and I'll spread it out on a cookie sheet. I'll throw it in the oven, crack the door open a little bit, and leave it in there for about 8 hours. That's it. pull it out when you're done, throw it in your container, and you're good to go. So,
yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people think that to dehydrate, you need to get something by Ronco, or you need these big things out in the backyard. You don't. Your oven is great. I've made a lot of beef jerky in the oven.
It's just a slow process. You're sitting around the house on a Saturday, on a weekend or something, throw a little bit in the oven, it's all you got to do. It's just throw it in and forget about it. 8 hours later, come back, pull it out. That's it.
Yeah, and that goes to something you were saying earlier, Jason, about the effort. Building up to you bugging in, you're going to have to put some effort into it. But once you do decide to bug in and you put that time, then, yeah, it is less effort at that point. But you got to put the effort in ahead of time. Right,
exactly. And then when a natural disaster or zombie apocalypse or something hits, for me, the first thing that you should always do is don't eat your supplies first. First, eat the food from the refrigerator, because that's going to go bad first. Don't touch the freezer yet, because freezer will actually keep things frozen and cold if you don't open it for up to 3 days in most cases. Then eat stuff from your freezer. Then eat stuff from your deep freeze if you have one. Then eat the stuff in your cupboards. And then when you've exhausted all of that, then you go to the rations that you made.
Yeah. I mean, why kill yourself if you don't have to, like with that stuff's there. Use it.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff is perishable, so.
Yeah, and if you don't eat it, it's going to go bad, so you're just wasting food in that case. So that's why I say start with the refrigerator, go to your freezer that's hooked to the refrigerator, go to the deep freeze, because generally a deep freeze does just that. It freezes it even colder, so it'll stay colder longer. Then go to the cupboard, which generally has stuff like that you've already opened, or things that are been stocked longer. Use the stuff in the cupboard, then go to your actual supply. Any last things on food you guys want to say? Oh, and then after all of that, or if you can, rotate your food when necessary.
Yes.
So if you buy canned goods, rotate them. Try to rotate them every year.
Yeah.
So, when you need peas, buy an extra can of peas, go out, get the peas from the front, move everything just like they do in a store.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then hunt and forage when necessary.
That's last ditch kind of thing.
It depends.
Well, I mean, if you got a spot, you can set up a trap, then or
Right, or even right outside my house, I have deer that walk right out from the woods and come and eat out of my yard.
Yeah. If you're in a city, it would be last,
Right. So for me, it'd be nothing to, take them out with my 308 out of my kitchen window.
Nice.
Nice.
If it was legal, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation, it'll be legal.
That's right.
Yes. Next to food, and I should have probably put water above food, because in the hierarchy, water is more important than food, is water. The general consensus is 1 gallon of water per person per day. Generally, the average person actually only drinks about a half a gallon of water. Mm-hmm. But the way that they go with averages is because, you may have a person like me that's in more of a temperate climate that isn't going to drink as much as someone in the desert.
Yeah. Yep.
So they say 1 gallon of water per person per day. If you don't drink all of that, great. Your water will last you longer. It can be store-bought, like you guys were saying earlier. Go down to the store, spend an extra $1 every week, buy a gallon of water. Or it can be tap water that you've saved. And saving tap water is really easy. You can save them in soda bottles.
Uh-huh.
You can save them in milk jugs, although I never trust milk jugs. Because for some reason I always feel like milk is still left in there and contaminates the water.
Yeah, that's true.
But, what you want to do is you want to just wash out the jugs with normal dish soap and water. Then you want to sanitize it, and you can sanitize it in the sink with 1 teaspoon of bleach per quart of water. Then, after it's dried out, then you fill the bottle back up with normal tap water. And you add 2 drops of bleach, standard unscented bleach, just 2 drops. Put the cap on, store it for a year.
Nice.
Write the date on there. A year comes around from that date. You dump out that water. You fill it back up again. You add 2 more drops of bleach. And you're good to go for another year for that bottle.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, fill up bathtubs, fill up sinks. You could also fill up anything that'll hold water. Fill it up.
Right.
While you have the option.
Now, with that, filling up bathtubs, filling up sinks, you know, you also want to make sure that you have a way of treating water.
Yeah.
Because even if you do have running water after major storms, a lot of times they'll send out these boil requests, you know, telling you make sure you boil the water, because the way that municipalities work, if you get your water from a municipality, they actually have to have pressure inside of the pipes to stop bacteria from leaking in and contaminating the water. Mm-hmm. So if they lose that pressure and the water all of a sudden does start back up, or you do get it, it may not be safe to drink.
Now you're going to want to run it for a bit.
But the nice thing is, everybody's got laundry machines, or most people have laundry machines, so in their house. So you got bleach. You got a gallon of bleach.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right there in your house.
Or if you got a pool, you got chlorine. Chlorine will even purify it.
Yep.
Right. So when it comes to bleach, what you're looking at, 2 drops of bleach per 1 liter or 1 quart of water.
Nice.
And that'll sanitize it. Let it sit for a minimum of a half hour. I like to say an hour, and let it breathe. Don't put the cap on it, because the way that it disinfects it is that it needs to actually get oxygen in order for it to be effective. So if you put it in a bottle, drop 2 things of bleach in there, leave the cap off, let it sit on the counter for a half hour, safe to drink. Boil it. Use a filter if you can. So even this even goes for going down to the creek by Mike's house and gathering water. You know, boil it. You can use chemicals such as iodine and bleach. Treat it with run it through a filter, but make sure that it's like a 0.3 micron filter. Yeah. I'm not talking like a Brita filter. Brita filters won't work in this situation.
No.
All right. Always have a backup, even if your water supply, you run out of water in your water supply. Have a backup.
Yeah, definitely. Redundancy.
Yes. And then, when it comes to the bleach, one thing that I forgot to mention, I said 2 drops of bleach per 1 liter or quart of water. Just remember the phrase, must be 21 to drink.
What's that mean? 2
drops to 1 quart.
1 liter.
Okay.
Or cool. 1 liter. Must be 21 to drink.
There you go. That's a good way. I never thought of that.
That's a good deal.
All right. On to shelter. Okay. Bugging in. Shelter. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Let's move on.
But no.
No, because I have some. I got some things to say.
I know.
I was just gonna actually throw it over to you, Mike, about fortification, because I know you've discussed this on your podcast before. You know, as far as, you know, you don't feel like your house is very well fortified. So.
But you do have interior doors that you can take off and use to fortify. Now I know there's a lot of people going back and forth on, say you're going to screw those doors, or you have wood planks or whatever you're saving. Do you screw them on the outside, or do you put them on the inside of the house?
Inside.
I say the inside.
Yeah,
a lot of people are saying the outside, but people can easily take a screw out from the outside.
Plus,
I'm not sure why someone would say the outside.
Yeah. Plus, if you gotta get out for some reason, let's say your house catches fire or something, man, you gotta be able to get out.
Well, the theory is
you don't want to die in a fire.
The theory is that in every movie they say people can push them in. It's easier to push something in than it is to pull it away. But to me, if you know anything about construction, you screw that wood plank or that door, it's going to be really hard to push in. You know what I mean? If you're using the right screws. If you're using like a 3-inch drywall screw into a stud and you're putting enough screws in there, nobody's pushing that in unless they got a sledgehammer.
Well, not only that, but you want to, like, you always see in the movies, you know, like on Night of the Living Dead, man, when they're boarding up the windows, they're just putting the boards all willy-nilly across, you know, thinking it's going to hold. You want to put them in a sequential order and actually, you know, run the right amount of screws or nails into it.
and you can leave space in between them to get some light into your house and stuff like that, because you're going to want that comfort. You can leave a couple inches of space. Nobody's going to get in there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that even talks about, that's even considering, you have to consider why you're bugging in.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a disaster like a hurricane or something, you may not need to. You know, you may not need to do that. If it's a natural disaster, I'll use, you know, something happens, a nuclear bomb goes off in Detroit. Okay, power gets knocked out. Detroit is on fire, which it probably is already, but I don't need to board up my windows. But I do need to hunker down because the supply chain will not be there for me to be able to live my normal comfort lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why I would board up the windows, like I was saying, is if there's a threat from the outside world.
Right.
You know
If there's riots, if there's, you know, if you're afraid of people coming into your house, yes. If you're not, then what you want to do, and I'm going to jump to protection, actually. This is a part of, but this can be a part of shelter, is prevent first. The main thing is don't make yourself a target. Don't let people know you're there. So at night, do what's known as shutting in. You ever heard of the term, you're such a shut-in?
Yep.
Or that's the reason how older houses have shutters on windows, is because they would actually shut up the windows, basically put boards across the windows, and that would block any light from the inside, so people that were walking by the street or driving by would not know that somebody is there to attack.
And, you know, the preparation part, like, you're going to bug in, is to, everybody has a drill in their house. I mean, make sure those batteries are charged, you know, all the time. So if you do need to use those drills to drill in, you know, to screw in a 3-inch screw, you have those resources there. You know, make sure you prepare for that. Make sure you have screws. Make sure, you know, if you have hollow core doors in your house, you're going to want to use something solid. Because a hollow core door you can bust through with your hand, you know.
Or in worst case scenario, make sure you have a handsaw and a, you know, one of them old Yankee drills, I think they called them, right?
Oh yeah, I love them.
The
kind of
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And why not go old school if you got to? You got no power. You got, you know, batteries are going to go out. Whatever. So
because nails, if you use nails, they can be pushed in. You know what I mean. That's why I say screws. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put enough nails in it, it's going to take some effort. But
but here's the thing too. As far as that, I mean, if let's say you got your basement door, you got a walkout basement, you got the basement door nailed up. Okay, you hear somebody's down there trying to get the boards off. Okay, they got the door open, whatever but they're working on getting the boards off. It's going to take them a while to get that done.
Yeah,
you're going to know that
they're
there.
Yeah.
And you're going to be down there standing there waiting for them with your shotgun.
Yeah, if you live in a 2-story house, you know, you have plywood flooring. You could always yank that plywood flooring up, reuse it, you know. I mean, there's wood in your house that you can use all the time. You just got to know how to find it.
Yeah.
The main thing, too, is don't broadcast your prepping. You know, that to me, I always
like
love,
what we're doing right now.
Yes, like we're doing right now.
Hey, we have all this stuff.
But don't let friends. And this is sad, and it's going to be really hard to do. But unless you prepare to have all of your friends and family over at your house bugging in with you, unless you prepared for all of that, don't let them know.
Yes.
You know, it's going to be hard to turn family and friends away and say, sorry, you're on your own. But it's your survival also. You know, it's the old idea of when I was a lifeguard. And one of the, you know, things that they tell you is, you know, when a person's drowning and you go out to try saving them and they start climbing all over you, what do? You
got to let go.
You let go, you push them away. Because the last thing that you want is for them to pull you under, and now the person trying to save them is the one drowning.
Self-reliance. You know
what they tell us is let them drown, go unconscious, dive down, grab them, and bring them in, and try to save them then. But you you don't want to put your life in jeopardy to save someone else. And it's going to be hard because it's human nature, especially I know for myself, and I'm sure for you guys too, to not say, well, you know, the last bit of communication you have with your parents to say, come on over here, I've got stuff to survive and ride this out.
Right. Or how many family members, Mike, I'm sure you've, or Jason too, I'm sure you guys have come across this. You got friends or family members that know that you kind of prep or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, I know whose house I'm going to. You know, I don't need to prep. I'll just come stay with you. You know, I hear it all the time. And
well,
it's like,
my co-host on Evolution of the Apocalypse, you know, he's always saying that. I'll just come here. Okay.
Yeah. But on that note, your neighbors, I mean, your neighbors, those who live closest to you, you either want to really kind of read them out and know, are they people that you're going to be able to trust in a situation, or
And
are they going to
rely
try to
on.
rob you blind? Yeah.
Right.
See, my neighbors know nothing about me. I don't talk to them. They don't talk to me. That's the way I
See,
feel.
I've got neighbors
And that's the
across
thing, when it comes to neighbors, it's a catch-22 because you can actually join forces with your
You
neighbors.
You can.
If you do it ahead of time,
Yep.
so that when
Baby
you do
steps.
have to bug in, you're not alone with it. You know that some of the prep for bugging in is at your place, some of the prep for bugging in is at their place. Split the difference, you have that much more room and supplies.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's a
That goes with
catch-22
trust.
because
Yeah,
that comes with trust.
You got to work your way up. You got to work your way up to that. You know, go see
Right.
it, what they're doing. Ask them about, hey, what, you know. In my
There's
situation,
a really funny episode of The Simpsons where I think it was Ned Flanders built a bomb shelter, and he was I think he told one person about the bomb shelter, and then they told another person about the bomb shelter, and every time someone came knocking on his bomb shelter, he said, yeah, come on in, and he invited, and eventually they had the whole town in this bomb shelter. And they ran out of food, they ran out of supplies, they ran out of room, and they ended up having to figure out who to kick out, who was the most expendable.
yeah,
And they figured out that it was Ned.
the left-handed.
Did you guys ever watch the old episodes of Twilight Zone? The old
Yes.
black
Yeah.
and
Love
white
that.
ones?
Yep.
Do you remember
Yes.
there was one where it was kind of similar to that? Where, well, not really similar to that, but kind of similar to what we're talking to. Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I'll just stay with you or come to your place or whatever." Well, it was back when, I guess back in those days, the Cold War was going on in Russia and the potential of nuke bombs and stuff like that, and something was going down. I remember there was the one episode where the guy built a bomb shelter and all of his neighbors were trying to get in there. Do you remember that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly like what we're talking about. All his neighbors and friends, and it's kind of like, when you get rich, it's like people you haven't spoke to in years are going to come knocking on your door.
Right. And in our reality, in a survival situation, the person with the gear is the rich one. Money
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Having the means to survive does.
And the knowledge too. And
And
you
the
know,
knowledge.
I've said it before. Know where your fallout shelters are around you. I mapped out 17 different ones. I found a new one yesterday. People forget about those things.
Yeah.
They were built like Adam said, in the Cold War era, mostly in schools. But people have forgotten that those things are there. They can be a good spot to get to.
Once you mentioned that on your other podcast, Mike, I've been paying attention to. I haven't seen any yet because the area that I live in is kind of, I guess, a lot of the schools and a lot of the commercial buildings are like newer. So I'm not really in that area, but I'm still always on the lookout for stuff like that, though.
Yeah, I found a new one yesterday, and I sent a video to Kyle, who's not on the show tonight, and said another one.
It's interesting where I live. During the Cold War, I lived within 10 miles of Dow Chemical, which makes, basically anything and everything you can think of. But if you use Roundup, they make it. If you use Crossbow, they make it. Yeah, 2 different brands, same place.
Yeah.
But during the Cold War, they were actually the top 5 targets to be bombed or to be nuked, because they had the means to make so much weaponry in a war. So anyway, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look around now because I never thought to look for shelters. But like I say, the main thing is don't make yourself a target.
No.
And a part of not making yourself a target is find a way, if you can, also, to keep stashes of your stuff. Don't put it all in a big pile for everybody that if somebody does come in, they get away with everything.
Yeah, you don't want
Hey, Mike.
Make stashes and caches of it.
Backing up for one second, Mike, if you get a chance, can you put a picture of what that sign looks like? Put it up on our website, or on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it right now.
It'll be that way everybody can see kind of what they're looking for.
What I do is I take a photo, and then I put an address to that photo, so that way I know where that specific location is, and I also keep a logbook with me at work. God damn, this medicine's messing me up tonight.
Like, well,
yeah. So when I come across
medicine,
one,
sure.
I took a shitload before the show. I've been feeling sick for the past couple
Mike's
days.
going to fall over backwards in his chair in about 10 seconds.
He is.
Feet up.
Right. So I keep a logbook and I write the address down where that location is, so that way I have that logbook with me if I need it. And I usually keep it. I usually keep it in my EDC bag that I take to work. But
way to be prepared, my friend.
Hey, you got to.
Hell yeah.
But I'll post that picture up now so that way
Great.
everybody can see it.
All right. Next thing, about your shelter is heat. You're going to need an alternative form of heat if you're bugging in, especially if you're in a northern climate like, the three of us. Well, I guess, Adam, you're not necessarily in a northern, but it does get cold where you're at.
It gets cold, yeah.
Yeah. So that can be a fireplace if your house has it. That can be a wood stove if your house has it, or you can get it put in. That can be, in my case, I live in a duplex. I can't put a fireplace in. I can't put a wood stove in. And I don't trust a kerosene heater. Kerosene heaters are actually great because, think about, I know my grandparents heated their house almost the entire winter on kerosene. They slept, it never harmed them. I don't know if it doesn't give off carbon monoxide or what, but kerosene heaters are great. And people have been using them for years upon years. The other nice thing about kerosene heaters, kerosene is so stable, it lasts in the can for years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I have, though, is I actually have one of them propane heaters, them buddy heaters, that are carbon monoxide free, made for indoor use, but they burn the little propane tanks.
Well,
which then also means I have to have a lot of propane tanks.
I have
And
a
do.
fireplace too, so that would help. you know.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, honestly, though, propane burns clean. The only reason you get carbon monoxide is because if it burns dirty. You're taking one part of that oxygen out of the flame, and that's what creates. And this is actually what I do for a living, so I know a lot about all this.
That's good.
But so, I mean, propane, natural gas, all that stuff actually naturally burns clean. Very low amounts of carbon monoxide. A regular furnace should only put out about 2 to 3 parts per million of carbon monoxide. As long as it's operating properly. So if you've got a propane heater, I mean, you should be fine. Kerosene heaters are a little bit different because kerosene does burn a little bit cleaner. Now, I know you can run diesel fuel in a lot of those kerosene heaters, but then you start running a risk of, number one, the fumes, and number two, carbon monoxide. But here's something that a lot of people don't realize. You can actually heat your water also without your water heater being hooked up, okay? If you take the burner assembly out of your water heater, pull that out, you can start a small fire inside your water heater on the bottom part, and the flue pipe is actually naturally negatively drafted. So it's going to naturally draw air up and out the flue stack. So you could safely start a fire underneath your water heater and heat your water or, whatever, and still be safe.
And if you're
That's
out of gas,
good to know.
you don't have
I
worry
didn't know
about it
that.
exploding or anything.
Yeah.
So.
And here's one way to test to make sure. Obviously, you want to test to make sure that your flue is properly venting, but take a lighter and the draft hood on top of your water heater, stick a lighter underneath there. It should suck the flame in. So
I think I'm
Just a
going to
little-
try that when this podcast gets done.
you going to go do that? You going to start a fire on your water heater?
That's actually that's great. I never knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I had no clue on that one. So yeah, like I say, have an alternative form. For me, because I live basically in an apartment, propane works great. The other part of that, though, is being able to block off portions of your house that don't need to be heated. So for me, my wife, and my son, you know, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment with, I say with a garage. I'm actually podcasting out of my garage. I've converted it into my office. But my living room, my kitchen, the garage don't need to be heated. His bedroom doesn't need to be heated. The bathroom doesn't need to be heated. What needs to be heated? The bedroom, the master bedroom where we're going to end up sleeping.
Yep.
That's the main thing. Heat the smallest area that you can to conserve heat. Also, if you can, especially in cold weather, block off windows with heavy blankets, because that will keep the heat from going through the window, or at least some of it, most of it, from going through the window. It's also good for shutting in. Hey, look at that. Serves two purposes.
Yep.
So heat is a good one. Have extra blankets around. Most people already do. Not only do we have extra blankets, we've got sleeping bags. I've got my mummy bag. My wife has a mummy bag. My son can probably climb into one of our probably my wife's mummy bag, because she doesn't like being as tight as mine is. So hers can actually fit probably 1.5 people, because she's got like the extra big mummy bag that to me isn't a mummy bag. It's a sleeping bag with a hood, but still.
Yeah, definitely.
But every house has a ton of blankets. Yeah. You know, how many blankets you got in your closet, you know, in a closet for, you know, guests, or just extra sheets, extra
or
blankets,
if your wife's like mine,
quilts.
Or if your wife's like mine and likes to change the blankets with the seasons, you know.
Yeah, my wife does that too. we have like 4 different comforters.
Yeah.
So yeah, heat. That's another good reason about being in a house, is that about bugging in is it's easier to heat a house than it is to try to stay warm in rainy weather while you're either out in your car trying to sleep out there or in a makeshift shelter in the woods.
Yeah, and if you are trying to conserve fuel or a way to heat, you can move into a bathroom, move into a smaller room that takes up. You don't need as much.
Yeah, interior rooms are going to be easier to heat than exterior rooms.
Yep, especially if
more
you have
insulation.
And not that
if you have like.
And not that this would be bugging in or whatever would be a reason to do this, but, you know, if you have good windows in your house, if you have good thermal windows, and you have proper insulation in your attic, your house is going to hold the heat very well. So, you know, something to think about.
There is a way, and I want to make a video on this because I've never done it. I've only seen like people that have like talked about making this. There is a way to actually make a heater out by taking a tin can, so either like a coffee can, or what people suggest is even better is one of them clean paint cans that you get at the store, you know, to pour paint into and mix it. Get the clean one, and you take a roll of cheap and wide TP, toilet paper. I almost said paper towels. That's what kept popping in my head. Toilet paper, and then you take isopropyl alcohol, so rubbing alcohol, and you dump that in there, and you fill it all the way up. Let it sit, and the toilet paper will actually soak up all the alcohol. Take the little insert out, the cardboard insert, and then what happens is you light that on fire, but the toilet paper doesn't actually burn. It's the alcohol that burns. And so basically it's like a kerosene heater without the kerosene.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I've seen that. I've actually seen that. I haven't tried it yet, but yeah, definitely be something good, because you know you can fill those up and put the lids back on them, and those cans should seal up pretty tight to where the alcohol wouldn't evaporate. At least not.
Yeah, that's why people suggest using them cans rather than like a coffee can.
That's a good one.
So that's heating. Cooking, you'll need an alternative form of cooking. I'm going to go with the. Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit though. What about cooling? I mean, if we're going to talk about heat, what if you're in an area you need to cool? You need to cool down. You know.
Cooling's going to be. Yeah, cooling is one of them that, to me, it's a little bit more difficult, with the exception of, just water.
Wet
Yeah,
rags, cool rags. I mean,
Cool rags, you're gonna go back to old style way of cooling, where open up, try to get breezes through if you can.
If you got a basement, the basement's going to be cooler.
Yep.
Right, exactly. Without
concrete-
electricity, you're not going to have a fan running.
And what I do, in the industry that I'm in, man, I'm in these people's houses, and it's, it'd be 90 degrees in the house, and you walk downstairs in the basement, and there's a 20-degree difference because, for one, mainly because you got the you got the concrete walls around you that are holding, the cool. Brick houses and the old stone houses, those actually hold the cool in very well. It's plaster walls. If you got plaster walls too, it's those makes a world of difference. I mean, I've got customers that that I go into their house and it's like middle of July and they got plaster walls, a brick house, and they're like, I haven't even turned the air conditioner on yet.
Yeah. And if you got a basement and the floor's concrete, like me, I have carpet, but I would pull up some of that carpet so I could lay on the concrete floor.
I mean, why do you think? Why do you?
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, like look at dogs. I mean, a lot of dogs, they love laying on the concrete in the summer because it's nice and cool on their belly or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But,
now, one trick, and Adam, you probably know this from your time in the rodeo, because this was actually taught to me while I was working at a rodeo by some cowboys, is it seems like it doesn't make sense, but you actually stay cooler, or you regulate your body temperature better with long sleeve shirts, long sleeve shirts.
Yep.
Because it keeps the sweat from evaporating, keeps it on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then also what they taught me is, them bandanas that you always see cowboys wear? Yep. Evidently, that has a reason besides just pulling up in a dust storm. Mm-hmm. What they taught me is they actually wet the bandanas, because the bandanas being wet and around their carotid arteries helps cool down the blood.
Exactly. I do that at work, being a mailman, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that they taught me is underneath my hat, my cowboy hat, when I wore one, Adam's got one on right now, they would actually take a bandana, fold it up, drench it with water, kind of wring it out enough so it's not dripping down their face, and stick it on top of their head underneath the hat.
Mm-hmm. I do that at work too.
Yep.
When it's hot, you'll do anything to cool off.
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing better than a cool rag. I mean, they make these special rags, and I've actually got one in my work truck. It's I forgot what it's called, but it's designed specifically for that. Just damp it down, put it around your neck, put it around your forehead.
It's got those little beads inside of it.
I think so. Yeah. It's almost like a towel almost, but it's like it's this really weird feeling material that it just holds the water and absorbs the heat.
Yeah, I got those for work. They work great too.
But long sleeves, growing up on a farm, like we were working out in hay fields and stuff like that all day long, and it sounds really, really ridiculous to be out there in long sleeves, but like Jason was saying, it really does keep you cool, absorbs the sweat, but it also, number one, keeps the bugs off of you, and not really pertaining to a survival situation, but in the hay fields and stuff, man, that stuff gets itchy, the dust and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, like I say, it seems counterproductive, but do that. Put them into hot spots. So think about what you do with people with a fever. You ice pack them underneath the armpits. If it feels like you're starting to get overheated, whether you're bugging out or bugging in, do that. Get cold compresses, put it on your forehead, put it on your head, put it on your neck, put it under your armpits, put it in your crotch.
Because the more you sweat, the more water you're going to intake. So I mean.
And in whether it's extreme cold or extreme hot, one thing that I've always learned is when you sleep, you want to sleep with the least amount of clothes on as you can. Yes. Don't sleep in your clothes, especially in like cold weather, because the oil from your body, the oils will actually absorb into the cloth. It'll actually make you colder or hotter. So
I've done some winter backpacking. And it's always funny when you see the newbies, because when they go to bed at night, they don't take their clothes off. They just climb into their sleeping bags with all their clothes on. And then the next day, they're freezing when they get out of their sleeping bags. And the people that know that, well, the mummy bag is going to keep me warm, I take my clothes, I roll it up, and I stick it down to the foot of my mummy bag to keep them warm, so I'm not putting on cold clothes. But at the same time, I'm not keeping all that oil and moisture in my clothes. That's going to end up even getting cold as the day goes on because there's so much oil and moisture.
Well, it's kind of like the difference between you ever run out of laundry or something, so you put a shirt on that you wore the day before, in the summertime. That as opposed to putting on a nice, fresh, clean shirt. There's a big difference in the way it feels, and you just, I don't know. It makes sense.
It has
hard to
almost
explain.
a crustiness to it.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it is, yeah.
Plus, I don't know about you guys, but like with me, when I'm at work, if I'm in the air conditioner, then I go outside, or you take it in the wintertime, when I get in my truck to eat my lunch, I take my coat off. That way, when I get out and put the coat back on, I feel like I'm getting warmer. I don't know if it's more mental or what, but your body.
No, it's true. At the same time, also, when it comes to, we'll go to cold weather survival, and we'll talk about this in another, more deeply in another episode. Dressing layers.
Yeah.
Right.
I always laugh when I see people, that want to do stuff in the cold weather, and they've got these big giant parkas on, and they've got, this really thick jacket but a t-shirt underneath, and then they get hot in the jacket, but they can't take it off because all they have is a t-shirt.
Yeah.
When it comes to cold or when it comes to heat, especially when it comes to cold, dress in layers, because you can always strip off a layer and have more underneath.
Exactly.
To cool yourself down and regulate.
One last final note, I think, on as far as cooling goes, because I know we're in the summer months. A lot of it is really just getting used to the heat. We're so spoiled right now with having air conditioning, and if you think about it, okay, when it's springtime and you had those days where it might get up into the mid 80s, you're like, God, it's hot outside, But then once you get into the summer months where it's 100 degrees, if it gets down to 85, you're like, wow, it feels really nice out. So it's more of just getting used to. I mean that's how they've done it for millions of years. I mean, think back, 1800s into the 1900s and up through the 50s and 60s before people really had air conditioning. These guys were walking around with freaking suits on.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
95 degrees outside. It's just what you're used to. So you just gotta kind of, I guess, condition your body. Yeah, condition your body.
I always think about it every November. When the weather starts turning cold, man, 30 degrees is chill. Man, I am freezing. January comes around, it's 0 degrees out, maybe less. Nah, I'm okay.
Yeah,
all of a sudden it gets back up into 25, 30. Man, it's warm out.
I'm one of those crazy guys at work that wear shorts till Christmas. So, I mean...
one of those guys.
I'm one of those guys. I wear shorts till Christmas.
We call them mentally handicapped.
Well, we might be.
Mike, you're special.
Yes, I am.
We call that the short bus rider.
Window licker.
That's right. The pickle bus.
Snozberries taste like snozberries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
all right,
I've conditioned myself to get to that. So,
on to cooking. You're going to have alternative forms of cooking, and I always like the most common alternative form of cooking. Think about any time the power or something happens and you need to cook dinner, what's the first thing you turn to? It's the first thing anybody turns to.
Barbecue grill.
Exactly.
Yep.
Everybody goes out to the grill. I have seen, I was in Oregon when we got hit with a big storm. Power knocked out for 4 days. Everybody, you drive down the road, everybody was out in their yard in the middle of January grilling.
Yeah, I pulled mine into the garage and grill, with the door open.
So grilling is the most common, and it is a great alternative form of cooking. It doesn't matter if it's charcoal or propane. To me, it's your preference, but I prefer charcoal simply because I can throw alternative sources of fuel in there. I can put wood in a charcoal grill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you got a propane grill too, you can always throw wood in there if you had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done
Just
that
don't
before.
expect to use it for propane again.
Exactly.
Outside of that, I also keep in my house, like I say, I have a lot of propane tanks, the little 1 pound propane tanks. I keep a propane camping stove in here to use. I also have butane backpacking stoves.
Yep.
So those are two great things. The other one that I always liked is what's known as natural fuel. And Mike, you actually did a video on one of these types of stoves, you and Matt, recently. And these are stoves that actually you throw twigs, grass, basically anything combustible into it. And they are very efficient at creating a really hot flame.
Because the fuel nugget gets it going, and then that basically blows it. That's what she said.
All right, fuel nuggets nuggeting. Ooh, nuggety.
Fire.
Smells interesting. And check it out.
And then that's the dampener.
So you can dampen it, you can open and close it, and get it going faster. So right off the bat, that alone made it go twice as high.
Yep.
That was a really cool stove, Mike.
Yeah.
That thing was awesome. I'd never seen one before.
It ran off 2 AA batteries, and that dampener with that oxygen blowing up just created a massive flame. I mean, it was insanely hot. So.
And you can make these yourselves also. Out of I made them in Boy Scouts out of coffee cans.
Yeah, and if you got
by
like
punching holes certainly in a certain way into it.
And you can make a fan, if you get creative. If you got like an RC car that has a fan in it, or a drill, or something that has a fan, you can run a fan.
Or even a belt, like a hand bellows or something you could use. I remember back in Boy Scouts, Jason, do you remember the smoke shifters?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Used to make with the 2-liter bottles, or I think it was 2-liter bottles, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that and just blow it into the bottom of it and kind of do that by hand if you don't have any power.
If you have to, take the fan out of your computer.
Yeah.
Those things you can hook up to a 9-volt battery.
Yep. And it'll put out enough oxygen.
It'll put out a lot on a 9-volt because the 9-volts actually, those things only run on 6 volts.
Yeah, those things are great.
So, I mean, those things are great. You can make them yourself. Another one that's really easy to make I don't like tuna, so I haven't made one in a while. But if you eat tuna out of a can, that little can of tuna, take cardboard. This is really great. You take corrugated cardboard, cut it to the width so that it fits in the can, but doesn't stick up. And you actually take a bunch of it and you roll it into, a nice little cylinder. Then you take another piece and you roll it into a nice little cylinder, take another piece, and you fill up that can as tight as you possibly can. Take paraffin wax and dump it into that can, let it harden, and then when you're ready to cook, what you do is you take your knife and you actually scrape up a piece of the cardboard near the middle, light it on fire. You have what's known as a Bubba stove.
Nice.
And that thing will light and will stay lit for hours.
Nice.
That's cool.
Sterno, too. Sterno's
Sterno cans heat. I actually have them in my bug out bag.
So do I. You brought it up a while back on my podcast, and it's a great thing to have. I got one in my bag.
So yeah, when it comes to cooking, the main thing is be creative. Know what you have around you. I mean, if need be, go out and dig a pit in the yard. Light a fire out there.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, honestly, if you got 3 or 4 candles, you can just use a candle, and if you got something in a little can, you can cook. Yeah, there you go. Mike's got the sterno there.
Yep.
Just a small can.
Out in my hunting blind, I've cooked cans of ravioli over my heater.
Yeah. I mean, just
point my heater to the side, stick the can on there. It works.
Yep.
Because I have one of them old style heaters that doesn't have tip over protection.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Next one on my list. Excuse me. Next one on my list is sanitation. This is going to be really important for bugging in,
yes,
because that's going to be one of the first things to drive you out of your house.
Yep. Where are you going to put it?
Remember, there's no garbage pickup and there's no plumbing.
Mm-hmm. So where are you going to put it?
When it comes to garbage, you're going to want to dispose of your garbage as far away from your dwelling as absolutely possible. And if you can, burn it to kill off the microbes in the garbage.
Yeah, that's your best bet, to burn it.
If you have the extra water, you can still flush your toilet.
Yes.
Possibly. Because the thing to also remember when it comes to flushing the toilet, or when it comes to toilets, is a lot of people, they're going to end up backing up if you're hooked onto a main sewer line.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have a well, or a septic tank, you're golden. But if you're in a city, or you're in like me, If my plumbing goes out, I know everybody is going to be throwing everything they can down that toilet to keep it flushing, and so you do take the chance. If that happens and you no longer can flush your toilet, then get rid of human waste the same way that you do with garbage. And in fact, garbage bags is what you're probably going to want to have for human waste. And the trick that I've learned from, I've never tried it obviously, but the trick that I've learned from reading things is don't mix. So every day you're going to have one bag hooked up to, whether it's a 5-gallon bucket or whatever you use, for number 2. And a different one for number 1, because it's the combination of them that makes that really potent.
And, I mean, you could always go back to the old outhouse theory, too, you know?
Yep.
Go outside.
Dig a hole.
Yep.
You know, dig a hole.
And like I say, the same thing goes for that. Get it as far away from the house as you can. Do it daily. Get it as far away from the house as you can, and if you can, burn it. But the main thing is get it out of the house. And when I say burn it, they did that in Vietnam. They burned all of their waste.
Yeah.
Human or
they
otherwise.
Still do. Yeah.
They probably do. I don't know. I just know
They
from
do.
Vietnam.
People, my brother-in-law, Chris, was stationed in Iraq, and they still burned their waste. They put it in 55-gallon drums. Burn it.
Also, remember, you're not going to have showers when it comes to sanitation. Personal sanitation is going to be important also. So, sponge baths and baby wipes.
Baby wipes.
Keep yourself clean.
Hand
Because
sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer. If you are not clean, that is going to lead to a plethora of other survival problems.
Yeah.
Kyle, I think Kyle was talking about it on this show. He was talking about deodorant. I think it was the first show, wasn't it? I mean, that's actually, not in a way for, as far as hygiene or smell or anything, but more of just kind of getting back to making you feel like normalcy,
Psychological.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you can clean yourself with alternate means other than using your water, that's best.
That's what I got my
A
dog
lot of
here
people
for.
don't know, but ash is actually as good as soap for cleaning.
I have heard that, yeah.
So when you make a fire, obviously not your garbage fire, but a clean fire. So if you burn wood out in your barbecue, get that ash. So you wet yourself down, you rub the ash on, and it does the exact same thing as soap. Basically, it unsticks all of the microbes, and you rinse it off.
Yeah.
And then, and brush your teeth. Trust me.
You don't want a toothache.
You don't want a toothache. Power and lights. We talked about the generator earlier. If you have a generator, use it sparingly.
Yeah. Only when you need to.
Only when you need to. One thing never to do, and I'm going to repeat this, never do this. Never take the fuel from your vehicle to fuel your generator.
Yeah.
If anything, it should be the other way around. Because you want to always make sure you have fuel in your vehicle.
Yep. Yep. And that goes into keeping what Adam said, a week's worth of fuel or so. You want that fuel that you're going to keep is going to be full fuel for your generator. Once that's going, don't tap into that.
But you know what? A lot of people have in their houses too that you can use for fuel: liquor cabinets. Dump that alcohol in there. Obviously, you're going to want to try to mix it with. You don't want to try to run straight alcohol on your generator, but if you try to mix it with your gasoline,
doesn't it have to be a minimum of 80 proof?
I think
believe
so.
so,
I think I have heard that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wine coolers, no.
No. Beer, no.
Beer, no.
Sorry, Mike. Not like Mike would burn his beer anyway.
Hell no, that's last. That's like my survival resource right there.
And then, like I mentioned earlier, we'll put a link up on both the website and remind me, Mike, after the podcast to put a link up on the Facebook page. There actually is a FEMA article from the 1930s on how to build a wood gasifier.
Nice. All right, yeah, we'll have to put that up.
And
that was a big thing back in the day. They were trying to. I think they actually did make cars that ran off that, but they were ungodly dangerous.
Yeah, they were ungodly. Yeah.
There's a guy in Pennsylvania not far from me that drives around in a truck that he converted, and he's got it tagged. I don't know how.
Wow.
How he got it through emissions, I have no clue. But he said the top speed is only like 35. But still,
Well,
you're
and,
getting somewhere.
like this FEMA article actually shows a farmer with a tractor running on a wood gasifier. The thing is with it is that the reason they did it with the 1930s and into the 40s is because they had fuel rationing back then, thanks to the war and stuff like that, and with people not being able to afford the fuel from the Great Depression. So a wood gasifier is a great thing to learn. Yeah, we've got that now. Shoot. Yeah. Gas last week was over $4 a gallon. It was like $4.25 where I was at.
Dang. It's like $3.60 here.
It's like
I think it dropped down to $3.55 or $3.50 here. But holy cow! Like it jumped up all of a sudden.
Man, you guys are expensive. We're like $3.10 here.
Shit, oh my God, I would love that.
You go up into like New York, it's like $6 a gallon or some shit.
Yeah, California's like that when we're out there too. It's crazy.
So, along with power, it comes lighting. I'm going to tell you my personal preference. If you don't have to, don't use candles. I don't like candles because to me they're not efficient enough, and they're a fire hazard. Yep. So that's my personal preference. I have candles. I have 100-hour candles, but unless I absolutely have to, I don't use them. To me, anytime, and if you ever notice, whenever the power goes out, what's the first thing that people tend to run for?
Candles.
Candles.
Yeah. One thing that here in I don't know if it's a statewide thing here in Missouri or if it's actually like a national thing, but solar power is getting big right now. They're actually they've actually got solar panels now that are basically replacing the roof shingles on your roof.
In my neighborhood, there's the whole front of his house is nothing but giant solar panels all built up. If you're thinking long term, and if you're thinking long term, there's like it's like an 80% tax rebate for solar power right now.
Yeah,
it's huge. I mean, it's very expensive, but you figure like it's like an 80 or 90% tax rebate
that you can use over years.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's definitely something good to look into. So, solar power, wind power are two of the huge things.
The only problem with solar power is if you do have those on your roof, somebody's going to want to come take them.
Well, the other thing, too, is think about where you live. In Missouri, where you may or may not, you may have better direct sunlight. It may not be that cloudy. Solar is probably really popular. When I was in the Pacific Northwest, it was cloudy most of the time, so solar power wasn't that good. But
wind power.
A lot of people were going to wind power because it was windy. Same thing here in Michigan. Michigan, we're about 50-50 on when the sun shines. But there's a lot of breezes. There's a lot of wind. So, think about where you live on what works. But in both of them, yeah, you're right. You can get right now really good rebates, tax refunds, if you put in alternative forms of energy.
The power companies will actually buy the power off you.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I've heard that. If you end up feeding back into them.
Yep.
One thing that I do like is I love hurricane and kerosene lamps.
Yeah.
And propane lamps. Propane lamps are the greatest, except that they don't last very long.
Yeah.
So I don't want to kill one of my propane tanks to have a lamp that only lasts for 6 hours.
I think you can use vegetable oil, I think, in a lot of those oil lamps, can't you?
Yeah, hurricane lamps, you can use vegetable oil. Kerosene lamps, I'm assuming, because you can use oil in kerosene lamps.
Well, it really is just a wick. I mean, that's pretty much it.
And a hurricane lamp and a kerosene lamp are basically the same thing. It's just one looks nicer than the other.
And if you got to notice,
they both use the same wick. They both work on the same principle. You light it, and they give off more lumens than a candle does.
And if you got an Otis in the group, you can always use his fat.
Suck it out.
That's what they did back in the day.
Yeah.
Use fat.
You can actually use bacon grease. You can burn bacon grease.
Yep.
I've done that before. Made torches when I was in Boy Scouts. by taking cloth, wrapping it really tight around a stick, and then rolling it around in bacon grease. Man, that thing will stay lit for at least an hour.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of LEDs. I've got LED headlamps. I've got LED lamps. I've got LED everything. So when our power goes out, we've got light.
And they're bright, and they they're small. Most of them. They put
The
up.
batteries
They
last
last.
forever.
Yeah, I mean they're
They
great.
last. I mean, I don't know when the last time I actually changed the battery was in my LED headlamp.
I got an LED headlamp that I take fishing. I go fishing every Sunday morning. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I go fishing. I haven't replaced. It's been 3 years, and I haven't replaced the batteries in that thing yet. I mean, those things just last forever.
Yeah. That flashlight that I showed you guys last week, that's an LED. It takes one AA, and I have to replace that battery about every 2 weeks, but I use it every day, all day long. So
Yeah.
they work. They're good. I'm with Jason, man. I stand behind them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Glow sticks to me are good, but to me they're I have a few of them, and so if I use them, it better be for certain situations.
Well, the thing about them is you can't turn them off. You know, like that
Right.
that one that Mike's got. It's a battery operated glow stick. Yeah, you know, at least that my kid's gone through 2 or 3 of those. He loves those things, and you can turn them off.
See, it's got an LED. It's got an LED, and it's got the glow stick. And then it's got just a glow stick, and then it also had, the flashing.
So
And it also
basically,
got a
it's an
whistle.
LED light. So
Yeah.
basically, it's an LED light that glows,
Yeah,
which is good because
Yeah.
we're going back to the LED thing.
And this one here, they say, is 200 hours. So, I mean, that's a lot of time.
That's a good.
Yeah. Well, my kid usually
I mean-
takes them to bed with him, and he
I
falls
don't know if you
asleep
can
with
see
them
or
on.
not,
So,
but 200 hours.
Yeah.
wow, that's
I mean,
good.
they're great.
yeah.
I did a review on them.
So yeah, I'm a fan of glow sticks because I like them, but only in certain situations. I would not use a glow stick just because the power went out or because they're kind of like it. I can't even think off the top of my head why I would use it, but I have them just in case.
Yeah.
If you have a fireplace, utilize the light from the fireplace as your light in that room.
Yep.
And then finally, this is one that I really like, and we did this up at our cabin. You know them patio lights, the solar patio lights?
Yep.
They make them that where the solar panel is detached from the light itself, and you can buy them on Amazon for like, I don't know, $10 maybe, $15. And what you do is you actually take the panel and you stick it up on a window, and you get it charged all night or all day while the sun is out. And we have the light up, rigged up to the ceiling. So what we do is we flip that thing on. It doesn't give you a ton of light, but it gives you enough to see
Yep.
Yeah. Now,
and navigate. And it's rechargeable, and you don't have to worry about the batteries going dead.
talking about those, here's something that I did. I had a few of those because you can buy those things from Walmart or the hardware store or whatever, pretty cheap, like $2 or $3 a piece, right? I had some of those along my sidewalk out in front of the yard, and they kept the stem, the whatever you call them, the things, the stakes or whatever, kept breaking. So I had a couple of them that I actually took them off, and I took some mason jars, and we had these little like glass beads or these black glass rocks or whatever. I took and I filled the mason jars up with those rocks, and I took and I hot glued those lights to the top of like the rim of the mason jar. And set them outside, dude. Those things, that thing will light up because the light hits those glass rocks, and it just kind of reflects all over the place. So it's kind of like a small lantern, and it actually,
That's great.
Yeah, it turned out it actually works pretty well because I got them setting out on our picnic table out in the front, on the
probably
front
look cool,
porch.
too.
Yeah, they look really cool when they light up. But thinking about because I kind of thought of that too when you were talking. I think you were talking about that on your lighting podcast, Mike, and something I did several years ago, and I mean they last. You got to change the batteries in them every so often, but it definitely lights up a lot more than what just the light does.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then the last thing that I have is medicine. Just like your bug out bag. Your bug out bag is going to have meds in there. your bug-in supply should have even more. If you take blood pressure medicine, ask your doctor for an extra 30-day supply. Or ask them to write out, a bigger supply, so that you have, extra medicine with you. Antibiotics, anything that you can do. Like we talked about, get the fish mocks, the fish antibiotics, whatever you can do. You'll have a bigger supply at home. Yes, you'll keep a portion in your bug out bag, but you'll have more at home. Make sure that you have all of the medicine that you need, because here's the thing. We call them first aid kits, but in a survival situation, they are the medicine kit, because there is no second aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your house, I mean, I got a whole closet dedicated to just medicines. So, I mean, you got stuff here.
Mike's a junkie.
Well,
and when it comes
I got
to medicine,
3 kids,
when it comes to medicine, learn some skills too. Learn how to stop anaphylactic shock. Learn how to suture. Get a suture kit. You can practice on an orange. And learn how to suture if somebody, cuts their arm or cuts their leg. Something bigger than what butterfly bandages will hold together. Learn the skills that you need. Having a quote-unquote first aid kit will do you nothing if you don't know how to use the stuff inside correctly.
Yep, totally agree.
And then protection. We talked about this earlier. Basically, don't make yourself a target. When it comes to firearms, I think when it comes to firearms, everybody is going to have their personal preferences. For my house, I like a shotgun. I've got my pistol, but I also like my 12-gauge shotgun. I've got it filled with buckshot.
Yep.
So all I've got to do is get that chink.
Yep.
I prefer my 50 cal. I'm sticking
your
with
Barrett.
that.
You got your Barrett.
My
out there?
Barrett. Yep. I'm laying out on the roof, man. I'm picking them off.
Nice.
Not getting even close to the door.
I got a 308 for that.
But yeah, so have your firearms. I always suggest, at the very least, have a handgun. But also
use the ammo sparingly.
Yeah, have a shotgun or a rifle, and remember, it's last resort. Okay, this isn't a I'm going to go out and try to pick fights with people. I'm not going to broadcast. I'm not going to. It is try to keep low key so you're not a target. But if something happens and you do need to protect yourself, also when it comes to firearms, you have to make the decision ahead of time. When I went through the police academy, this is one thing that they pounded in our heads. If you cannot make the decision right now that you are willing to take someone's life to protect your own or to protect someone else, then you need to get out of this job. You need to, if you own a gun and you want to use it for protection, you make the decision right now. Don't wait till the podcast is over. Don't wait until you are aiming it at somebody. Make the decision right now whether or not you are willing to take the mental and possibly legal, but at the very least, the mental turmoil of knowing that you took somebody's life.
Yep. Because that's going to affect you.
It is.
No matter how you look at it. Even if you're ready to take that shot, it's still going to affect you. So you do have to get yourself in that mindset, Definitely.
Yeah. If you're religious, make peace, pray on it, ask God for forgiveness ahead of time. So, that's what it comes down to when it comes to firearms. And that's all I have for my notes.
Well, I pretty much covered it all.
Good deal,
2
man.
hours into this podcast.
Let's do our show and tell then.
All right. Show and tell. Actually, before we do that, I do have a few more remember questions to ask yourself, whether to leave or whether to stay. Number one, is this an emergency and disaster, or is this just an inconvenience? So that should be one question to ask yourself. Number two, does it immediately impact the health and welfare of myself and or my family?
Yep.
If it does, get out of there. If it doesn't, you can stay. Is my current location and provisions safe and defensible? Just like Mike said. Is the current event likely to get worse and or spread? Is the current event likely to end or improve? If it's likely to end or improve, you may be better off staying. Do I have the proper equipment to ride out this event where I'm at? Let's see. Am I likely to need to defend my home during this event? If it looks like you're likely to defend your home, get out. Again, defense is a last resort. And if I need to bug out, do I have the proper plans to do it?
Planning is key in all this. Just in prepping in general, survival in general, you have to. You got to get yourself ready.
Okay. With that, it's time for show and tell. So I'll let Mike go first.
Okay, so I brought a couple. Well, one thing, but two things that tie in together. I brought a compass. I got just a standard. Let's see if I can get it in the picture there. GI compass. It works pretty good. You're going to need to know where you're going. So a compass is key. Know how to read one. It's not as easy as you think. You can't just point north and think you're pointing north, because your area dictates where north is.
Where true north is, yeah.
Yeah, where true north is. Also, I have a base plate compass. Just a map.
My favorite kind.
Yeah, I mean they're great, and you pick them up for like $6-7 at Walmart. So I have both just in case I lose one or break one. I have a backup. So that's what I brought this week.
That was almost my show and tell, Mike.
Well, you go ahead, because if you're doing the same stuff.
No, I'm not. I'm not, though.
Okay.
This is actually, you can see, this is a big-ass carabiner. It's about, what did you say, about 7 or 8 inches big. And as we all seen in The Walking Dead, this is awesome for clamping gates shut. It's kick-ass.
Yeah.
But also, too, I mean, I know they say it even says it's stamped in there not for climbing or whatever, but if I have to use it, hey, I'm going to try. But also, if I have to, if I'm in bear country or something and I got to hoist my bag up, there's all kinds of uses for this. But also, what I use it for is, as you can see on the back side of here, I've got 40 feet of paracord.
Nice.
That I got strapped to it, and then I just take and clip it to my bag. And I've got my paracord, got my carabiner. It's a nice way to kind of bundle up a whole ton of paracord without having it stuffed in your bag and all wound up and stuff. And I've actually wrapped it in the quick deploy. So all I gotta do is pull it off, and then once I pull it all apart. So
nice.
Yeah, that's mine.
Really nice. All right, so the last couple episodes, you guys have been showing off firearms, and I felt left out. So
I haven't showed off firearm yet.
So I brought my Springfield XD40. I'm holding it up for the camera right now. Everything's kind of reversed.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is the compact. I do have the extension clip on there, so I can hold more rounds.
Nice. That's double stacked too, right?
This one isn't double stacked, actually. It's only single stacked. Let me see if I can hold this up. There we go. So this is single stacked, but so this is my XD40. Now, as we mentioned earlier, I don't keep this in my bug out bag because, unlike Mike, I don't own, multiple handguns. I own the one. I need to buy more. I know, but I'm a broke bastard.
I've collected them over many, many years.
Yeah.
But this is my baby. This stays locked in the safe by my bed that I can easily grab, which actually isn't far from my bug out bag. And I'm going to put this back in the holster. In my bug out bag, though, I keep, so this is the part that's actually from my bug out bag, 2 extra rounds, or 2 extra boxes of rounds.
Nice.
So not only do I have what's in the clip, now, one of the things that I kind of went with when I bought these 2 rounds, these 2 boxes, is in my bag I have personal protection rounds in there, so hollow points. Mm-hmm. These are not. These are fully jacketed rounds. So a lot of people would probably say, you know, why are you going with fully jacketed over hollow points? To me, it comes down to if I need to hunt or I need to use it not for personal protection, I use these. Mm-hmm. If I need to use it for personal protection, I'm going to use what's already in my clip. Or in my magazine, sorry for all of you people that get bent out of shape, whether you say clip or magazine.
When you say clip, I was like, oh my god, it's not a clip.
Were you really?
It's a magazine.
I always, oh god, it drives me nuts when people do that. It's like, okay, you know what? They're interchangeable, okay? This is my rifle. This is my gun. This is for fighting. This is for fun.
Nice.
Anyway. But then these are actually perfectly fine in many situations for self-defense.
Yeah, it's going to get the job done.
Yeah.
So, to me, those are, you know, a little bit more multi-purpose. Yeah, and they're less expensive. In
my bag, I keep cheaper ammo because really it's going to do the same result, you know, really pretty much. So, you know, don't break the bank for ammo that you're going to put
especially
in your bag,
at the prices they are now.
Yes, exactly. What are 40s going now?
Oh God, for target rounds, they're right around $35 a box.
Whew. Wow.
God.
Every now and then I can find them for like $20 if I get them like on sale at a very obscure place. And that's for 50 rounds.
I used to be able to get a box at Dick's Sporting Goods of 9s on sale for like $9 something a box. It was like dirt cheap. Yeah. So I used to just scoop them up because now they're like $22 a box or something.
Get the white box Winchester 9s for like you said, like $10 or $11 at Walmart. You know,
the loose packs that just come in the box. Yeah,
it's no different than 22s. It used to be that 22s were like rocks. I mean, you could find them at everywhere, every sporting goods, every hardware store, a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, hell, I used to be able to get 223 in the 100-round boxes, like Mike was saying, the loose round boxes for like $38 or $35, I think, at Walmart, man.
I know.
223s.
Now you can't even get 223s. At least around here, it's hard to.
Yeah, they're hard to find.
Thank God I got about 600 rounds or so stashed.
Yep, exactly.
All right, and I think with that, what do you say? We done?
Yep.
Any last things? All right. Don't forget, that's our podcast, by the way. Thank you for staying with us for this whole 2 hours. Don't forget to get a hold of us. You can email us by going to feedback@survivalpreptv.com. You can also call us at 507-339-PREP. Go to our Facebook and like us there. Just search Survival Prep Roundtable on Facebook. We will have the link to you at some point soon. Go to survivalpreptv.com and check out the site when it gets built. Keep checking there because eventually I will finish it. You guys saw last night. I'm making good headway. I'm just doing some bug fixes. So I'm Jason. I am the host of the Creepercast podcast, which is a horror-based podcast. Let the fear creep in with Creepercast. Adam, I'll let you introduce yourself or give your little sign-off about Roughing It.
All right. Well, you can find me at Roughing It, Facebook, Roughing It Survivor's Journal. That's RUFNIT. My YouTube channel is Real Roughing It. That's with 2 Fs. And I try to put a video out each week. Try to. And, I appreciate all the subscribers that I've got. And I really appreciate all the likes that I've had in the last couple weeks, or all together. But, on the Roughing It page, it's been pretty good. Had a lot of good response, and I really appreciate everybody out there.
All right, and we've had some great also interaction on the Facebook page for the Survivor Prep Roundtable, so thank you everybody that joined on our Facebook page. Mike, tell us about Evo.
It's a podcast you can find, iTunes, Stitcher, all those places. It's a cool, fun podcast. I want to thank everybody that's liked the page. Like Adam said, we've had a big jump in likes, and the big jumps in Survival Prep Roundtable. Thanks everybody who's going over there and like the page. That's awesome. But download our app, Evolution of the Apocalypse. Check out our YouTube channel, EOTA Podcast, and thanks again, guys.
All right. See you guys next time. What are we talking about? Haven't come up with that yet. We'll let you know on Facebook.
There you go.
Later.
Peace.